Hi, I'm Brittany Pacheco.
And I'm Amber Churchwell.
And we are the Watchers in the Basement. Welcome back. We are reviewing season 5, episode 4 of The Handmaid's Tale. Amber, I'm so excited to have you join me today.
I'm very excited.
Why do I say it like that? You're part of the Watchers, okay? Duh. Hello.
Yes.
And
I'm a new member. I'm a new watcher.
You are. And it's a very exciting day because this live stream that we're doing right now marks the 100th episode or 100th video, shall I say, for the Watchers YouTube channel. So that is incredible. I think it's great.
Woo-hoo!
We're making history.
Happy 100th birthday. I don't think that counts. No, it doesn't count. Whatever.
No,
but
that's okay.
Happy 100th. Let's just do
it.
Happy 100th. Woo-hoo.
Yes, it's very exciting. And I'm glad to get to share this opportunity with you. So we are in for what I think actually is a really good episode. What are your overall thoughts on this episode entitled Dear Offred?
Personally, I think it's my favorite so far.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually think it was my favorite so far. I really did like episode 3. I did like it, and I definitely liked episode 2. Like because we did like episode 1 and 2 together because they released them at the same time. I think I just really liked this one. I think it's definitely my favorite for so far. So far, we got to keep that in mind.
Right. Yeah. This season's not over yet, but I won't say that this particular episode is my overall favorite. I still really enjoyed episode 2 with the funeral and just like the mind-blowing twist of that episode. But this one comes a close second behind it for me. So really great episode. I was a little disappointed that IMDb didn't rank it a little bit higher.
I agree. I was surprised. I thought it would be a little bit higher than because it didn't do as well as the first one, did it? Like I personally think
I think it was like a point or I don't even a tenth higher than the premiere episode, which I thought, no, this episode was worlds better than the premiere episode.
Yes, I agree. I was a little surprised by it, but I mean, hey, to each their own, but I'm so very excited.
Yeah, so shout out to McDorks, Christian, hola yourself. Hope you guys are doing safe over there in Orlando.
Yes.
I totally understand what y'all are going through living in a coastal state myself. I really do appreciate you being here to support Amber and myself. And if you haven't, and you say you haven't checked out The Handmaid's Tale, I encourage you to do so, but heavy topics, very sensitive topics, somewhat triggering topics, but it does make for a very, very interesting watch. So, but appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Amber, let's go ahead and start reviewing episode 4, Dear Offred, which the title in itself.
Wow.
I mean, talk about a shot to the heart, if you will. Blew my mind. And
you just knew it's going to be intense just from seeing the title.
Yes, for sure. So Christian says we're good. We were blessed to have nothing done to us. That is amazing.
That's
good. So good. Glad you guys are doing.
Praise be.
Praise be. The only time I think we'll use that in this kind of sense. But let's talk about June. Obviously, she is the main protagonist or antagonist in the episode or the series, depending on how you want to look at it. But we do start with the episode of June and Nicole, baby Nicole, are enjoying a girls' day out at the park, and they're on the swings. I mean, swings are they're just so much fun, right? But
freeing,
very freeing. And they are approached by a quote unquote adoring fan.
Yikes.
Creeper status. Status. And I think it's safe to say that for June to go into complete full protective mommy mode was appropriate, because the fact that the
Mhm.
fan was like, "Oh, she's adorable. Oh," and she gets, like, super close to the stroller, and June's like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 back the fuck off. Like,
Yes.
don't touch my daughter. Like, no, 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 no."
Mhm.
What did you think about this quote unquote fan saying, "You were so lucky you were in Gilead"?
I honestly it kind of sucker punched the air out of me. I was just, "Whoa."
Yeah.
And thank you, McDorks.
Yeah, thank you,
But
Christian. Yes, the hair.
thank you. Um, I was just sucker punched by it, and I think I can't imagine how that must have felt for June to hear, because, I mean, considering all the trauma that being in Gilead caused. So, it was terrible. It was terrible, and it just shows kind of like what we've been seeing and leading up to, with that there is, at least some people outside of Gilead who support Gilead, and obviously they don't have a clear picture because Gilead keeps the light out, I guess. They don't really
Right.
want to be in the spotlight, and for good reason. But um it just shows that this woman probably doesn't know the full extent of all of the horrors that June had to endure. And yeah, that doesn't excuse her behavior,
Right.
because even then she was being kind of creepy. Like, even in a non-Gilead society, I would be a little weirded out by somebody approaching my child so incessantly and
Stranger
without
danger.
permission. Yeah, and
Stranger
without permission.
danger.
Yes, and it was just so odd, and then that woman, you could tell very, very clearly how she just went from 0 to 80, from sounding that she was so adoring and so sweet and kind, and then the
Mhm.
second that June's like, "Hey, I'm not comfortable with this. Can you please back
Right.
off?" She started calling her very offensive insults, like, instantaneously,
Right. And
and
I think that that whole portrayal right there with
mhm,
saying, "Oh, you were so lucky you're in Gilead," and, "Oh, baby Nicole is a child of God," it rings true for a lot of people who kind of hide behind this banner of righteousness, and thinking that
mhm,
because they're followers of a higher deity and things like that, that somehow they're better than everyone else, and they can
entitled.
exactly, and they can
Mhm.
refer to other people as sluts and whores and things like that, just because in their own mind, I'm better than you, which is never okay by any stretch of the imagination, even within any scripture or doctrine. That's not okay to think that way. It's not okay to treat other people that way. So for
Treat thy
then
neighbor and all that.
exactly. So for
Mhm.
June to then drop F bombs, listen, I cuss like a sailor. I fully support June and
Yes.
her sentence enhancers, okay?
Her
So for June
response, spot on.
spot on, exactly. And
Mhm.
for June to react that way, and then she's triggered, obviously.
Mhm.
This fan clearly doesn't know the inner workings of Gilead. For June to be referred to such terrible names, she's gonna protect herself and defend herself as well as her daughter. So she gets a little
Mhm.
physical. She pins this fan up against the swings. At a girl, June. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
But also, why are these Gilead sympathizers still in Canada? Like, why haven't you marched across the border?
Honestly, I don't know, they're scared. They should be, but that's probably not reason why, but it's more I don't know, because I is it because they want to spread the borders and they're like, "Hey, when Gilead does get here, I'm already ready to go." I don't I don't
But
know.
why wait?
Exactly, I don't know. Like, I that was just a shot in the dark. No idea why. Because, like, with the other people, like, I said it before too, with the women who, were showing sympathy to Serena and,
Mhm.
like, praying for Fred. I was like,
No.
"Go away." Just please walk south for, like, several
Right.
miles. Just go
Right.
south.
Right.
Leave us alone.
Right.
But
There's a river somewhere, go jump in it, okay, and see if Gilead will,
yeah.
pick you up afterwards. No, it just floors me. For one,
Mhm.
obviously, I understand I can understand women in this society who may experience infertility, although this particular
Mhm.
fan said both her pregnancy were boys. We don't know if these boys or these
Survived.
pregnancies survived, but the idea of infertility can cause people to deal
Mhm.
with trauma in such a way, and their behaviors and actions are very outrageous, I guess you could say.
Yes. Okay.
However, if you're so desperate
Yeah.
for a child and you are in favor of Gilead, what is stopping you from walking across the border to go into Gilead? We learned in the previous episode that they're watching the borders to make sure people don't escape, not
Yeah.
people walking in.
Yeah.
So again, why? Why? Anyway.
No idea. And honestly, you're right. We do see women who even before Gilead, like in flashbacks, we see how when Hannah was born, we saw
Mhm.
that that woman who she lost her baby and she
Right.
tried to run off with Hannah,
Right.
and we even when Nicole and June were still in Gilead, we saw that like when Serena was walking with the stroller with and same thing with the Putnam's
Naomi
family.
Putnam. Mhm.
Yeah, Naomi Putnam. They whenever anyone approaches a baby, they're very much just like, "Hey, get away." And so like this woman's
Right.
whole interaction wouldn't even be okay in Gilead.
No.
Like because you're showing too much attention to a baby that is already making you a threat.
Right. Right,
So,
because that
yeah.
is the whole basis of their society, is to
Mhm.
repopulate the earth and blah, blah, blah. Fine,
Yeah.
but you still
Just
can't
go there,
remove
lady.
right, but you
Yeah.
still can't remove the envy from other people who cannot
Mhm.
naturally have their children.
True.
It's just it just floors me. But we
Mm.
finally see, Amber, that June is in professional counseling.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna throw another praised bee out there, because
Yes.
finally, this woman needed it. She needs
Oh,
it.
she desperately needs it, and it seems
Mhm.
that she is acknowledging her her wrongdoings, if you will.
Yeah,
She
she's being
does
more self-aware.
exactly. She's
Mhm.
expressing that things did get physical with the fan, and the council refers to June by the third person. Did you happen to catch that?
I did, um, and I mean, you know that I already touched on this too, that she acts very, very differently. There may be because I mean, I'm by no means an expert, but I've seen so many different things of media where they address um, alter egos and things like that.
Mhm.
So I picked on that like a dog on a trail. I was so into that. I'm like, that's fascinating
Mhm.
because I feel like they just try to sneak it in there. And because
Unless
everyone seemed like it was been talked about before,
right.
like Luke, June, the
Yeah,
therapist. Yeah.
right. Unless the therapist was talking to Luke about June, saying,
True.
"Well, we knew with Serena coming back that June would be blah blah," and then it just kind of trailed off after
Mhm.
that. But initially, I'm like, "Wait a minute, wait, like, are we not referring to June as June because she's in a completely different mindset? Is
Yeah.
she Offred at this point? Dissociative personality disorder, whatever
Mhm.
that actual name is referred to." And
That
I don't
is.
know, I was like, "Whoa, like, this is weird, or who are we talking to at this point?" Because it's a
Yeah.
very different June that we've seen in Canada as opposed to when she first got there.
Mhm.
Obviously, very defensive, very standoffish, very like, "Let's go murder some people," and now, like you said, she's self-aware
Mhm.
and is saying, "How do I make this stop?"
Yes. And I really liked that because Luke brought to attention, he's like, "Hey, how do we prevent her from getting physical in the future?" And June jumped right on that. She's just like, "Yeah, How do we do that? How do we fix that? And sadly, the answer was not satisfactory because trauma's not easy, and
No.
dealing with trauma is never going to be easy. And she if she is experiencing symptoms of dissociative identity disorder,
Mhm.
um, then it's going to be a process that
Yeah.
is not going to be easy. And that's kind of all they really can say at that moment. Because a lot of the
Right.
times you're not going to know how to respond to something until it happens.
Exactly. And I think the answer being that it is gonna be difficult, and June saying, yeah, like, she obviously is aware. She knows that she's struggling, which is great. Having that self-awareness and recognizing it is a huge improvement,
Mhm.
obviously, in her own mental well-being. But then the visit from Mark Twello doesn't really help.
No, and I told you off screen, I feel like he just had to leave the house as a kicked puppy because everyone was rightfully angry at him.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a big, huge "I told you so, man. What do you want?"
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I felt a little bit bad for him, but
Mhm.
for a majority, I was also on Moira, Luke, and June's side because
Right.
they did tell you, they warned you, they gave you so many different instances and examples.
Mhm.
You knew what you were getting yourself into.
Yes,
Why are you surprised?
exactly. Exactly. And for Mark to deliver the news to Luke, June, and Moira about Serena's release, she's not going to be
Mhm.
watched at the detention center anymore. The US government basically has nothing to do with her anymore. She's now in this Gilead ambassador role in Toronto,
Mhm.
which I had a lot of questions, but then Mark thankfully like answered those questions about
Mhm.
how Gilead had pre-war property in Toronto, and
Yeah.
that's how Serena is able to work and live, and because of this, little piece of property that Gilead has, and it's
Yeah.
quote unquote their territory. Mind blowing to me because it's like, oh shit, they're actually going to bring Gilead
Yeah.
into Toronto.
It's a lot more feasible now, and that is terrifying.
It's terrifying. So for Luke and June and Moira to be like, "What the fuck did you just do?"
Yeah.
And Luke is rightfully pissed right from the get-go with Mark about having seen Hannah and not doing anything when he was in
Mhm.
Gilead. And Mark's kind of like, "Well, that's like wasn't really my job. My job was to
True.
escort Serena." And Luke and Moira were like, that's just bullshit." That's
Yeah.
just crap. But because of Fred's funeral being broadcast, now people are very interested in Gilead. And
Yeah.
this has opened the opportunity for Serena once again to be an ambassador, to quote, represent Gilead's values. But Mark
Yikes and
does,
yikes.
yeah, but Mark does tell the group that she's limited. She doesn't have a passport. She has no money to her name. She is basically, she's up for grabs, in other words. That's how I interpret it.
That's how I interpret he meant it, but I don't think that that's how the other 3 heard it because they're right. She's been able to get away with so much shit by with even before when circumstances were not great. Because I mean, hey,
Right,
she didn't have she's a woman in Gilead. Gilead does not give many rights or power to women,
right.
if any at all.
Mhm.
So and she was still a threat back then. So it's like now that she's in a land where she has a lot more freedoms than a wife would in Gilead, that doesn't mean that she's not a threat anymore, Mark. What are you talking about? Like
Uh,
it's
y
yeah.
right.
I
Well,
thought that
and
like yeah.
the idea in itself is scary because we do know that Serena did help create Gilead from behind the scenes. So
Mhm.
imagine now that Fred's out of the way, commanders are out of the way. Yes, she does have to report to them. Imagine what she could do in Toronto. It's kind of like making Gilead into her own image, right? And
Exactly.
it's a really horrifying idea in general.
Yeah, like her own Gilead where women can read her book. It's just I had the exact same thought process. And I mean,
Ugh.
June's lying to her. I felt again, I feel a little bit bad for Mark, but she's right when she said like you never listened to Mark, like you never listened to me when I told you and I warned you about her. God, you're such a fucking disappointment. It was like,
Mhm,
ouch. You're
mhm.
right, but ouch. I mean,
But his retort back to her about having unrealistic expectations, I'm like, "Oh,
yeah, like
okay."
it's true. I mean,
Man.
he does have a point because yeah, June did when obviously she went through atrocities and we have seen that. We follow her story and we
Mhm,
obviously root and support her.
mhm.
But she is one person out of thousands,
Yes.
millions.
Yes.
You can't expect everything to go your way just because you want it to go your way. And I understand Luke was mad and he's reasonably mad that he didn't do anything about Hannah, but Mark's right, that's not his job.
Right.
Like
Sadly.
yeah, so I think they expected all of these they did. They expected so many different things from happening from that trip and none of it went the way they expected because and he's right. They had
Yeah,
unreasonable expectations.
they did. They did. Well, this doesn't
Mm.
stop June from going into full on defensive mode. She
Mhm.
goes and digs up that gun that we saw her bury in, I believe, episode 1,
Mhm.
and she takes off in the middle of the night to wherever Serena is staying. We'll soon find out it's gonna be known as the Gilead Information Center, which has its own living quarters. And Serena's acolytes are outside her window, like, "Ah," whatever. And it just oh my god, that's seriously again, people, just go to Gilead yourself. Just go.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just do it. But June, unfortunately, I say unfortunately, cannot use the weapon because the ammo clip is jammed. It's been in the dirt. It's cold. It's
Yeah, it probably
you just can't.
froze.
Yeah, exactly. You can't get it to use. But you don't have a gun to use. What are you going to do instead? You're going to drive up to the window. June steps out, and it's the death stare amongst these
Mhm.
women from Serena, who's in the window looking down at her supporters, June looking up at her. And then, surprisingly, doesn't step foot on the property any further, but she gets back in the car and drives away.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, she's getting more self-aware and realizing, "Hey, I will
Mhm.
make things worse." So she didn't. And the fact that and she that the moment she got home and talked to Luke, she was very open and honest about what she did.
Yes.
Loved it. Love to
Yes.
see it. This is growth.
Yes, and even with Luke being just very calm and hearing her out and saying,
Mhm.
"Okay, yeah, like I get it. I get you want to shoot her in the head. But let's
I
talk
did too.
about let's talk about how that's not going to help us."
Yeah.
you know, we need to do things the right way. Let's eliminate Serena by building code violations, city
Mhm.
council, protests. Like I know people and we can do things the right way. And furthers that reason with if you go and shoot her in the head, they're going to take baby Nicole away from you
Mhm.
and we lose any and all chances of getting Hannah back.
Yeah.
It's like this is solid.
Mhm.
This is
It's a
solid
very
reasoning.
valid argument. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's exactly what she needed to hear.
And
Perfect.
and,
And it
and and she didn't
Mhm.
lose her mind. Like we'll see her later in the episode lose her mind, but it was reasonable.
Yeah. And
So
it's reasonable and when she actually did, it's because she was triggered.
oh,
Like it's
go ahead
ins
and tell us about that trigger. Walk us through that moment.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
This is where the title comes from.
Um wow. So we do see Serena with a bunch of invites. We don't know what they are yet. We assume it's correspondence of some sort. And
Mhm.
we find out what it is. And it is that she was sending out a bunch of letters. We don't to spread the word that they have this Gilead learning center, and where you learn about Gilead, and it's and she sends one
Heaven on
to,
earth.
oh gosh, she sends it to she sends one of these letters, invitations to June, and she wrote on it, and it looks like by hand, "Dear Offred," which, well, she just said Offred, but still,
Yeah.
that is the point of the title, and that was the name they forced upon her. Like, that is terrible. And that is, oh, I was angry because that was a personal blow, especially after just seeing that she saw you, you saw her. She knows where you live now, Serena.
Yeah.
Like, she
It's a
was there
game.
for a threat.
It's a game of cat and mouse between these two women.
Yes.
That's for sure. And even though Serena is advised by Commander Lawrence to keep her distance, you know, just put her energy into work and not into June, Serena's like, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, and I'm going to, you know, send this invitation to June and call her by her Gilead moniker, which was Offred. Talk about slap in the face, right?
Yeah.
And June snaps. And June snaps, rightfully so. I wouldn't put it past her to do anything at this point, because it was such a blow. Because what does this mean of this information center? Does this mean that Gilead is now going to spread its territory within Toronto outside of that little building that's there? It already has supporters.
Yeah,
So,
I think I would not be surprised if it did spread from within, like how it did before the war. That's what Serena was obviously good at. So it's going to spread the word, and it's going to spread the following. And I mean, maybe it just gets kind of tipped over the scales, because once she reports back to the commanders might see fit to attack Canada again. And
I mean,
if there's already people on the inside, it doesn't look good.
And I think June is right to say that the only way that all this goes away is to put everyone in the fucking ground.
Yes.
And Moira,
love the line.
Yes. Oh God, the writing for these episodes have been great. Moira will support June in the sense of, yes, I agree. There's no way. The only way to get this done is everyone be in the fucking ground. But there has to be a right way of going about it, because we are refugees. You know, we're guests. We can't, you know, step a toe out of line without there being consequences. So we need to do it the way Luke wants to do it, with the building code violations, et cetera, et cetera. And I love this part where she says, I'll dance on Serena's grave with you.
Yes, because
Praise
I
be.
agree with it. Yes, and I think that was these interactions throughout this episode. Again, I'm going to say this every episode. I feel like I am in love with the script writers. Thank you guys so much for giving us such great lines and interactions, and the actors for delivering it. Because it showed between Moira and June just how much that June is already starting to heal. Especially because she was very angry. She smashed a plate. She said that she wants to put her in the fucking ground. I get it. We all do. But the fact that she didn't, when Moira was telling her something that June didn't want to hear, like, hey, Luke's right. We got to do it a different way. We can't just go murder spree. She didn't go off on her. She agreed. And that is improvement. And that just shows that, hey, they're learning how to interact with the new, I guess, trauma-soaked
the new June.
best friends that they were. Yeah, like it's because before, Moira and June they've been friends for years. They know how to interact with each other, but now they have to kind of relearn everything because they've changed so much.
And
I loved
June I do too. And June does say, "What if this is who I am now?" And Moira's like,
Mhm.
"Well, I don't worry about you around baby Nicole anymore, so that's something."
Yeah.
She accepts June for who she is. This isn't going away
Mhm.
anytime soon, and we just kind of have to roll with the punches, but we also
Yes.
need to put the brakes on the extreme ideas, especially when it comes to murdering people. But let's go ahead and fast forward to outside of Gilead's information center where
Yep.
June is parked. She's got her pistol. It's nice and clean, and she is going to approach this group of supporters as well as protesters with gun in the waistband, and you can hear this man arguing with what I assume are former handmaids. I think these are the same women from
They looked
early on.
familiar. Mhm.
Mhm. And they're going back and forth. He's saying things like, "You need to obey. You need a man to put you in your place." And I love
Yeah.
the response from one of these women saying, "I don't see a man here."
I cackled
Died.
aloud. I It was brilliant. Again, thank you, scriptwriters. Amazing line. Because wow, and that guy, I mean, I was getting angry right along with the
Mhm.
girls because I was like, especially talking to those specific women, because it
Yes.
yeah. Um, dude. And this is the guy that I just kind of want to drop kick him over like across the Canada
Oh,
state
yeah.
lines. Like, get out of here, dude. Go to
Well,
Gilead if you want to be like that.
he's clearly talking out of his ass. He doesn't know anything, and
Yeah.
when Moira is kind of trying to diffuse the tension between the two, he's like, "Hey, listen, like she's from America," and he's like, "There is no America anymore," and then he sucker punches Moira. I was like, "Dude, are you serious?" Well, you just sucker punched June's best friend, which means you get the gun to the face. Okay?
Yeah.
Did you see how quickly, like the fan that she
Mhm.
encountered in the beginning of the episode, how quickly they cowered? This
Yeah.
man immediately cowers and is like,
Immediately like, he was terrified.
"Yes."
He was scared, and I mean, he should be. I mean, anyone will
Yeah,
be scared reasonably if there's a gun in their face.
yeah,
Understand, but dude, he shut up real quick.
he did.
And
And yes, especially with that warning shot in the
yeah.
air.
Mhm.
And June,
She was
again,
serious.
personal growth,
Mhm.
although Luke is in her ear saying, "Put the gun down, put the gun down." And she tells the man, "Go,
Mhm.
get out of here." And he bolts and takes off running,
Yeah.
to which Luke is going to take June out of the situation because obviously
Mhm.
now she's on property. She's on Gilead property. She just fired off a gun. It's not going to be
Yeah.
good for her at
Mhm.
all. So,
And there's, like, dozens of witnesses. And,
dozens, exactly.
I mean, she's off and she's in a state where she could well, they already know that they're violent. Like, thank goodness that Luke was there to talk her
Mhm.
down. I mean,
Mhm.
can't imagine if he wasn't.
Yeah.
Um, you can't imagine. There'd
Can't
be it.
imagine.
But, it's wow.
Eh,
Like,
death for everyone. You die, everybody dies.
yeah, and honestly, I think at this point we kinda need to come up with a name for Killer June, because
Offred.
yeah, it's just I feel uncomfortable calling her Offred,
I
but
know.
that is the only name that works.
It
But
just it just seems like it's appropriate because
mhm,
she embodies this different persona
yeah.
as Offred as opposed to being June or the
Mhm,
former June, right? So,
yes. And that's the one who's violent. That's the one who
yeah, good God, yes,
and it was so
right.
fast. Just wow, it was I was glued to the screen. I'm pretty sure I didn't even breathe. And it got even worse like when they escaped, and I mean, you can talk about um
I
what
mean,
happened from there.
there's things that obviously these characters will kind of interconnect with one
Mhm.
another multiple times in this episode, and after June and Luke flee the scene, they encounter Serena, who is being escorted from the building for her safety, right?
Mhm.
They encounter her with her new bodyguard, and there's like this standoff in a way. June does reach for the gun in her waistband, and then she looks down at Serena's belly and makes a decision not to pull the gun out.
Yep.
And Serena gets into the car, drives away. June and Luke turn the other way and take off to go home. And June tells Luke, like, I didn't do it today, but that doesn't mean I won't do it the next time. And Luke's like, listen, I get it. Okay. I got beef with her too. But also they get a phone call in the meantime that, hey, doing things the right way worked. You know, the building code violations came through.
Yes.
And so good news leads to good sex, apparently. So, I mean, it's just
Can't blame them, but
natural.
yeah, but
Yeah.
guess, yeah, it was something. But I that was such a charged moment though, with her seeing Serena, and I'm surprised that she didn't do another warning shot, but
Yeah.
like I'm surprised that she had enough restraint at least not to do a warning shot.
Right.
Or even say they didn't even say anything.
No,
It was
just the
just
classic stare. Thankfully, it didn't last as long as they have been, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a pin in that, and I'll circle back to that in a little bit. But the end of June's story here basically ends with her burning the invitation from Serena about Gilead, because now this information center has been condemned, and c'est la vie for June. But we know that she's definitely not done with Serena. Not done with Serena at all. And here's the surprising thing about this episode is that Luke actually had more to do in this episode than in previous.
I was very happy for it, actually.
So walk us through his interaction with Serena.
So he actually does go to Serena, obviously. Just said that. But it was a little bit it was intentionally, she was trying to humiliate him and show that, oh, I have power here.
Bitch, please.
Yeah. Serena just needs to be cut down a few pegs. But she insists that she checks that he's been checked for any weapons. And after being confirmed that he does not have any weapons, she's like, check again. Stop being so extra, Serena. Chill out.
That pat down was unnecessary.
Yeah, it was yikes on bikes. But he is very upfront and he's very honest. He's like, hey, my wife's gonna kill you. I'm gonna let her. And I was just loved it. Gotta love a supporting man.
I mean, seriously, what man do you know that goes to your wife's mortal enemy to say, heads up, my wife is gonna kill you and I'm gonna let her?
It's ballsy.
Very ballsy. Very ballsy. But Luke does try to appeal to Serena's softer side, right?
Yes, he does say that we can leave you alone. We can help each other. You can help us get Hannah back. We'll leave you alone. You'll never have to worry about us again. You can just go on your merry way. Help us get Hannah. You have ability to do that. And Serena, oh my gosh, I just wanted to punch her. She says Agnes is very happy, but also being raised by fit and loving parents, just as the good Lord intended. Wow. I was so angry, and Luke, I think this is the first time that Luke has actually experienced it from firsthand experience. Because he's obviously heard how Gilead acts and how they think and believe of families, and he obviously has been explained the situation with Hannah / Agnes. But I think this is that we know of the first time that somebody from Gilead is saying, we think you're a bad person. She's being raised by a good person. Deal with it.
And she furthers that statement with saying, you know, I've wondered why you didn't try to get your daughter and wife out of Gilead. You know, because Nick was there. Nick supported June. And You want to talk about that dagger being stabbed and then
Mhm.
twisting it just to, make it that much more painful. Then
Yeah.
Luke, and I freaking love what Luke says to her at
Mhm.
this point with the building code violations in his hands, saying, "Stay away from my family or I'll fucking kill you myself." Throws down the papers,
Yes.
walks away. I'm
We love to
like,
see it.
slow
We
clap.
love it. It's great. It's perfect, brilliant, and again, the actors saying these lines, they are acting it out. You could feel
Mhm.
how he felt that gut punch. He knew like
Yeah.
that she wasn't going to hold back any punches,
I
and
mean, she went for the jugular. Let's just be real. She
yeah,
went for the jugular. And you got the response from Luke because you damn well knew what you were doing. But now
mhm.
I'm concerned. Obviously I'm concerned for June and her mental well-being
Mhm.
as it is, but now I'm concerned about Luke being corrupted. Like, what kind of
Yeah.
relationship is this now with these two?
um, Bonnie and Clyde.
See, that's what I was thinking too. Not quite the same level, but
No,
just
no, they're
it's
not
very
thieves,
concerning. They're not thieves, no, but
but
it's very concerning because
it is.
now he obviously has approached the opposition to say, "Heads up, my wife's going to kill you. I'm going to let her." And then also, "By the way, I'm going to kill you too."
Yeah.
Oh, it's intense.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine line between being supportive and being enabling.
Yeah.
We don't know where that is yet. I mean, hey, maybe Luke will kind of calm down. Maybe. I doubt it, but he might. But again, I
I
doubt it.
I definitely think that Luke is going to make some decisions that would be very surprising for the former Luke or
Mhm.
pre-Gilead takeover Luke.
Yeah. We can't
But
expect everybody to be normal after everything.
right, but having lost his wife, lost his daughter, having to raise his daughter's second born that has no blood relation to him whatsoever.
And knowing that she's still in contact and kind of reliant on the
Baby daddy.
man, yeah, like on your wife's baby daddy.
Yeah.
Man
It's
goes
it's
through a
a lot
lot.
to deal with.
Mhm.
Exactly. And I'm pretty sure Luke is going to make some decisions that would be very shocking,
Yeah.
especially just coming from him if June doesn't influence him in some fashion, but we'll just have
Mhm.
to wait and see. Let's talk
Yeah.
about inside Gilead. Let's talk about Aunt Lydia, Janine, and
Ooh.
Commander Lawrence.
All right. I
Oh,
You can talk about the actual like conversation,
sure.
but wow, that was again beautiful dialogue. Can I just worship at the ground that these scriptwriters walk on? Because
Praise
wow,
be.
I praise be. Um, Janine is back with a fiery passion, and she is now kicking a fit and kicking up dust, and I love it. Love to see it. It's perfect.
Yep.
It's exactly what I think her character needed
Hmm.
because there were times where we see Janine being more meek and mild, and we see her going back and forth. I mean, very first episode, we see her get her eye plucked out for being too rowdy.
Yep.
And so we know that the fight is in her, and sometimes
Mhm.
that gets kicked out of her, but it's back, and I am here for it. But you talk about the actual conversation.
Oh, Janine's just done. Let's just be real.
Mhm.
She's done being the good girl who listens, who follows the rules. She's done.
Yep.
Okay, she's done with the BS, the Bible quoting BS that comes from Aunt
Mhm.
Lydia's mouth, and all the terrible punishments that these handmaids endure under
Mhm.
Aunt Lydia's tutelage.
As she should
And
be.
rightfully so. I think
Yeah.
I think it's
Mhm.
long overdue, of course. And when they're discussing Esther about whether or not she's woken up, and Lydia makes a remark about, well, serves her right. She tried to kill one of her sisters, and she should rightfully be condemned by God
Yeah.
and for her choices, basically. And Janine's like, what the hell are you talking about? She's a child. Like,
Yeah.
I warned you about her. I told you about
Mhm.
her. And just Janine's laying it all out
Yes.
and throwing everything back to Aunt Lydia that she's ever said to the girls about live
Mhm.
a life of service and grace, or else.
Yeah. 'Cause that's always
And
been the underlining thing.
that's always been the
Or
underlying thing.
else.
Right. And Janine kind of calls Lydia out on her crap. Like, why don't you just go pluck her eye out?
Yeah.
And I see you. I see you for who you really are and what you do to your quote precious girls. Like,
Mhm.
I still have one good eye, remember? She goes, or are you gonna take that one too? I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to see this side of Janine
I'm here
come
for
out
it.
because, well, I mean, when we
Mhm.
first see them together, Janine's attempting to walk with a walker.
Mhm.
The poison obviously did a number to her body, and she's having to relearn to
Yeah.
do some things. Obviously, I get that the struggle is real,
Mhm.
frustration is real,
Yes.
but the fact that Janine is saying everything that she has always thought, felt, or what the other girls have thought and felt directly to Lydia's face is wonderful, because let's not forget that Lydia has made a promise to God to save Janine, and she'll change her ways. So now Lydia is
Yeah.
forced to fulfill that promise and
Mhm.
is forced to reevaluate her methods. So now she's going to go see Commander Lawrence to talk about a new idea for the handmaids. And
Yeah, which
let me just say real fast,
yeah, go.
I love the interaction between these two actors and
Yeah.
Dowd and Bradley Whitford. Like,
Yes.
how they play off one another is just magic. Go ahead.
It is. No, it really is, and I mean, sorry, Aunt Lydia, it is not that great of an idea, and it coulda used a lot of work. Like, it seemed that she had this idea in the red van on the way to Commander Lawrence. Like, lady, did you go in there with anything with you other than just this whiplash idea? Like, it coulda used a little bit more forethought.
She could have gone in with 3 ideas, 2 really terrible
Yeah.
ones, and then that one being her saving grace. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, that would have been better.
yeah.
But the
But
interaction, you're right. These actors, phenomenal. And
so tell us about this new what Commander Lawrence is basically telling Lydia about the handmaid system. What needs to be done at this point?
um okay. Well, Aunt Lydia is told to get the handmaid system under control because she has had so many instances of not just Esther attacking Janine and poisoning herself and Janine, but there's also been other physical attacks that we don't see on screen, and um handmaid on
Death.
handmaid violence, handmaid on wife violence. Like there's
Not to
a
mention
lot.
bombings.
Oh, yeah, the bombings. Oh gosh, I actually forgot about the bombings. That's terrible. Ooh, bad Amber.
Yeah,
Forgetting about
handmaids have run amok under Lydia's tutelage,
yeah.
and the fact that Gilead has kind of a well-receiving audience from the outside
Now.
world now. Commander Lawrence is like, "Listen, you gotta refine it."
Yeah, get back into shape, and you gotta fix these things, that way we don't have other, especially now that cameras are looking into Gilead, and he is
Mhm.
upfront about it, he's like, "Hey, we're opening our doors a little bit.
Yep.
We don't want this to be the image that is shown."
Mhm.
And he so Lydia comes up with this idea to adjust and tweak the process of the ceremony. We still have the
Mm.
ceremony, it still exists, this terrible ritualistic rape, but he says that the women, that the handmaids should still live in the Red Center and stay in the Red Center under her care.
Right.
And only once a month do the commanders and the wives go to the Red Center to complete the ceremony. She suggests that they do not stay in the house anymore.
Right.
And I agree with Commander Lawrence's quotes, and when he says, "These are pious men. They need a little kink." And what in the he's just like, "Are you out of your fucking mind?" Like, it's
I mean,
true.
he says to her, like, "What are you smoking?" Like, he can't believe
Mhm.
she's saying this. And there's no way that the
Yeah.
commanders are gonna buy into this. That's not
No.
what they want. That's not how their system works.
Mm.
And it's such an oxymoron of saying they're such pious men, but they need a little kink. I'm like,
I lost it.
do you
I love
hear
him.
yourself? Seriously, do you hear yourself?
Yeah.
But listen, I would support, not that I support anything out of Gilead, but for Aunt Lydia to attempt to change her ways and try to better care for the girls, to
Yes.
say, keep them at the Red Center. We only have the commanders come in once a month when it's time. That way,
Yeah.
there's no extracurricular activities happening. There's no opportunity for these women to be abused by their commanders, or
Mhm.
have repeats of Janines or Junes or anything of that nature.
Yeah.
I get it. I get
I
it.
do. It was
But the
a
reality
good
is,
thought.
well,
Mm.
quote
It
unquote
was
good, but yeah, I know. You
good
know what
for
I'm trying to
Lydia.
say. Yeah, sure.
It was a
Um,
try.
it was a try. But obviously, commanders are not going to go about this. But now Lydia is forced to
Mm-mm.
pivot once again, and gonna try to get Janine back on, good graces with Janine, basically,
Yeah.
and asks Janine, "Will you help me? Will you help me with these girls? And I want you to basically be like the liaison to say
Mhm.
they're struggling, there's issues, and I want to try to treat this with more compassion."
Yeah, which I actually really liked that interaction because I like that she did that because if she tried to go from it like from that place, a lot of those girls are gonna have the exact same reaction. They just won't say it as Janine did. Like, why? You'll just do horrible things.
Mhm.
Like,
Or
why would I
else.
tell you? Yeah. Or else, like, why would I tell you about anything? Because you're just gonna do horrible things about it. And so for Lydia to be like, no, I'm changing and I'm doing that, I think having a liaison, perfect idea for that. Because
Mhm.
that's the only way it could feasibly work.
Mhm. And as we can see with the ending scene for Janine and at the Red Center, is that she's actually liked. Like, she's
Mhm.
actually cared about by these
Yeah.
other handmaids recruits. How new they are, I'm not sure, but you see as soon as Aunt Lydia leaves the room, how fast they get up from their beds to greet Janine and
Mhm.
see how she's doing. And she's like, "I almost died." Like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God." Like, I really almost died. But this, as I've been saying since the premiere of this new season, that Lydia is going to groom Janine to becoming a future aunt, in my opinion. This is
Yeah.
just a stepping stone.
I agree.
And
And it just wasn't in the way we expected, but
right,
yeah. Mhm.
right. And maybe with Janine at the forefront, maybe things would be better for the handmaids, as better could go.
Yeah.
But I am also left to wonder what's going to happen with Esther. Is she going
We
to make
still
it?
know, and I am so anxious about it. I need to know about what's gonna happen to my girl.
Yeah, poor girl, poor thing. I haven't read anything about whether she was not returning or she was cast in something else and that's why there's an
Maybe?
absence. I don't know. I mean, things like that happen all the time, of course, but maybe she'll make a radical recovery and then be the June 2.0 inside
Yeah,
Gilead. Who knows? We'll see. But I need to know what's
maybe.
going to happen with Esther and whether she's gonna survive or whether Gilead's
Mhm.
gonna do her in. I don't
Well,
know.
also, just think of what a volatile June point 2.0 that she would be,
Okay.
especially if because we know that she's already manipulated ties with her and Janine by getting her by the interaction that what's happening during the poisoning. We know that Esther's a smart cookie, and she
Oh, yeah.
she could definitely work that. So if she does survive, and if Janine is this liaison, I wouldn't be surprised if Esther tried to manipulate that
For
to her
sure.
benefit.
For sure.
Yeah.
100%. And question remains too, will she still go to the Putnams or not? Who knows, honestly. But let's talk about the woman of the hour, Serena. She is now a free woman with all but some limitations, I guess you could say. She's no longer being stalked by protected by Mark Twello, which I'm pretty sure he's pretty heartbroken about, let's just face it. Because he still pleads to her, Serena, take the asylum from the Canadian government and be an American citizen. And she's like, I'm not an American. My allegiance is to God. And I'm like, get her out. Get her out. Go.
Yeah, yanks on bikes. Get out of here. Leave. Like,
yeah.
Gross.
Yeah. So, Mark, like, you're beating a dead horse.
Yeah.
I still worry.
This was not his episode.
No. I still worry that he's going to defect. Like, I don't know. I just have it in my head. He's going to defect in some fashion or another. He still wants to be with Serena. She's not going to give up Gilead as quickly as he would like. So what is he going to do? He's going to cave and he's going to join. Like, I feel it. I feel it in my bones. I could be wrong. I hope to be wrong. But anyway, we shall see. So with Serena, as we've already discussed, she is sort of like this ambassador in Toronto on Gilead property that was, purchased pre-Gilead War. And
bizarre.
What do you make of her new driver / bodyguard, Ezra?
Creepy. I was just so weirded out by this man. Like, I have this vision in my mind that this creepy ass dude was just jumping at the chance to be a bodyguard of Serena. Because, like, this dude, he's so unnecessary as a being.
Yeah, it's a little much. It's very concerning, considering like Gilead has done everything and I guess hired him to be her escort, what have you. And then when they get to the center, you see all these workers. Who are these workers? Are they Canadians? Are they
Did they just hire these people?
Exactly. Like I want to know. I want to know why. Who are you? Why? Okay. Moving on. So we've already talked about her first day, if you will, with the invitations. She's making a fuss about how, there's no more ecru paper. I'm like, no one's gonna notice. I'm a designer, okay? I'm a graphic designer. I deal with paper a lot.
Yeah.
No one gives a shit.
Yeah.
You know why? Because they're gonna do what June did and burn the invitations.
Maybe a crew doesn't burn as well.
Oh my God. Maybe
so. Who knows? But either way, it was I'm telling you, she needs to be knocked down a few pegs. Like,
she does.
Chill the fuck out, Serena. You're not that high and mighty.
Well,
I would think that she would have learned that by now.
I think with her phone conversation with Commander Lawrence, she was knocked down a couple pegs because
not enough.
That's fair. She basically expresses her displeasure about not being able to hold audiences with these diplomats and whatnot because his office is canceling these appointments on her behalf. And she's just like, well, maybe if I do it informally with afternoon tea. And then he basically reiterates the idea and says, oh yeah, I think it'd be great if you met with people for tea. And she's like, what a great idea.
You gotta love a manipulative bastard. I mean, it was very frustrating.
Tiresome.
Oh, it's very tiresome. It is, but she deserved it. But
yeah,
I agree. Like, it was such a dick move for Lawrence, and I get it. But I think at this point, Lawrence is just taking any chance he can to fuck with her. And
rightfully so.
yeah, he deserves it. You
Rightfully
go,
so.
boy. Go off. But just go off, Commander Lawrence. But
you think she's still a little salty about the idea that he wasn't going to propose or wasn't going to
1000%.
protect her?
And I think that's also I think that tickles him. Like, I think that makes him, like, kind of like, "What did you expect, Serena?" Like, and just to kind of and, you know, his poutine jokes and his other, like, everything was just another way to kick her while she's down, like, "Hey,
It's great.
did you really think I was gonna propose? You're weird." And here's how you even think, like, this is how little I think
says,
of
"You're weird." That's great. I love it. If there's anyone that can say that, it's Bradley Whitford. Without a doubt. It's only Bradley. Jeez.
Yeah. I think that would be the only interaction that phrase would actually make sense, is if it comes out of that man's mouth. But
yeah. Yeah. Well,
oh, wow.
so they briefly talk about
Mhm.
June, refer to her as a child stamping her little feet, and he
Yeah.
warns Serena, "Hey, that child's been known to misbehave. Like, let's avoid her." And Serena's like, "Nope,
Don't die.
I'm going to address this invitation, send it off." Anyway,
Yeah.
so in the same time that the protesters' supporters are outside of the center, Serena is doing what any other ambassador-like person would do, and that's having a photo shoot.
Ugh.
Because what's more narcissistic than that?
Yeah. And
But
like, "Can we get better lighting? Oh, it's so close to the window and I have death threats?" Ugh. Fine.
she's like, "No, we're still gonna do 3 here, but then we're gonna move to the window. Like, I don't care."
This woman's just asking to be sniped. I'm
Oh,
telling you.
man. Yeah, she's on a whole other level. We've already discussed how the gunfire caused her to be evacuated from the building. She encounters June and Luke, and June makes the decision not to shoot Serena. So maybe June is really not the monster that she thinks she is, or that people portray her to be. Who knows? We'll see. But now Serena's off to a new quote unquote secure location with a giant W on the gates to this property.
Yeah.
I personally thought this was maybe in relation to the Waterfords, like Fred's
Me too.
grandparents, because I think the home that they actually lived in Gilead was actually Fred's childhood home. So to me, it was like, okay, maybe it's like a distant relative, thus the big W. Nope, nothing like that, as far as we're aware of, right?
Enter new character.
Enter very like super fan, like fangirling. Oh my god,
It was
like,
creepy.
oh, okay, yes, very creepy. She is Alanis, Mrs. Ryan Wheeler. And as soon as she sees Serena in her household, she drops down to her knees and begins to pray with the pregnant belly. And it's like, oh, how reminiscent is this with Serena to June?
Yeah, and you could tell that Serena, like, I swear she was thinking about it, because her face, she was like, what do? Yeah, it was, she was what do? And it was, I think, in my personal little headcanon, I'm gonna think that that's exactly what she was thinking about. Like, hey, is this how creepy we are about it? And it's like,
the answer, yes.
Yes. Hate to break it to you, but you're a freak, lady. But
she seemed uncomfortable. Like, she really honestly seemed uncomfortable.
Because she doesn't even know who this woman is that we know of, I'm assuming, because they didn't sound like friends. It sounded like
they didn't sound familiar with one another.
Yeah, so like, that's for okay. Pretending we're by no means taking Serena's side, but you gotta imagine how weird that is. Like, you just got out of a situation where you could have died. Your arch nemesis, and you already knew there was a gun in the area. A gunshot did go off.
Yep.
You are being evacuated for your safety. You
Mhm.
don't know where you're going. You don't know these people.
Yeah.
Like, and this woman who you don't know is again like just praying at your baby.
Like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my
Yeah,
god.
it was weird, and I don't blame
It was
her
really
for being
creepy.
weirded out by it. I'm very
Which leads
dynamic.
which leads me to 2 questions.
Mhm.
Is this woman truly an ally and going to further Serena's cause? Or is she gonna try to take Serena's baby?
I don't know, because I mean, they did reference back last season that Gilead would make her a handmaid.
Or at least take the child,
Yeah.
because he's a son of Gilead,
Mm-hmm.
and the Putnams would raise him while Serena
Yeah.
and Fred sorted
I
out
wouldn't
their problems.
I wouldn't be surprised if they are true Gilead supporters to be like, hey, we are better fit parents. We are fit and able. And one of you
Oh,
is
the
dead and the
irony.
other one is being like is obviously being targeted. We are
Mhm.
the safer family.
Oh, the
And
irony.
wouldn't that just be irony?
Uh,
Wouldn't that just be a perfect coinky dink?
oh man, that'd be rough. That'd be rough for Serena. I might feel a little bad, but then I probably won't.
Yeah. Like, I probably feel bad for, like, a second and then be like, I feel bad for
Nah.
the baby?
That depends.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Be raised by
Serena?
non-Waterfords or Serena. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
Oh, anyway.
true.
Well,
Yikes.
that pretty much concludes episode 4 of the season 5. Let me rephrase that. That concludes season 5, episode 4, entitled Dear Offred. Overall, I really did enjoy this episode.
Mhm.
And let me just say this. I think, considering that this episode ran for about 45 minutes,
Yes.
the story flowed well, the pacing was great.
Mhm.
And personally, I feel that episodes that are not directed by Elisabeth Moss, not that she hasn't directed some great episodes,
Mhm.
I just feel that the non-Elisabeth Moss episodes run a little bit better. We definitely
They're
don't get as
smoother.
exactly. We definitely don't get the long stares into the camera as much. I'm just over that. However,
So over it.
so far this episode is the shortest out of the 4,
Mhm.
and I think it progressed the story greatly. What are
Yeah.
your overall thoughts with this episode?
Again, right from the beginning, I said I think this is my favorite one so far. Granted, we're only 4 episodes in,
Mhm,
but I think it's my favorite so far because, like you said, it forwarded the plot so much. And I mean, you guys know I like Nick, and there was a mention of it, but he wasn't even here. And
very sad.
again, this is my favorite episode. I think that's saying something. But
Yeah,
I loved it. I thought the character and plot development was beautifully written, beautifully portrayed, and I think it was also beautifully shown. It wasn't
mhm,
like saw multiple instances of how June has grown since arriving in Canada,
mhm,
but we aren't like explicitly told that, and I love it. I love the
yeah,
fact that they didn't need that we were able to see it and it was clear without
mhm.
anyone being like, "Look how good she's doing," because I mean,
She's not.
yeah, but I but it's still an improvement. An
Yeah,
improvement is an improvement, but
very
I
much true.
like that I like that it's not so in our face, but it's still such great developments,
It is.
and it
It
really moved the
really
plot, like
is.
you said.
Yeah, so I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to next week's episode. I've seen
Yes.
a quick sort of snippet, not
Mhm.
snippet, but just a little brief on the next episode. I believe it's entitled Fairy Tale.
Yeah.
So that's very intriguing in terms of an episode title. So we'll see who's living in a fairy tale, what that means.
Yeah, because it could be Serena with this new Wheeler house.
Mm,
Could be that. It could be June, I guess,
yeah.
thinking of that. It could be this new development with the handmaids that Janine and Aunt Lydia are developing. Who knows?
Or it can be Mark Twello. I'm just saying,
Man is living in a fairy tale.
I don't know what to think of that man anymore. I'm concerned, but at the same time, I'm like, just go away. Just go. Just go.
Yeah.
I'm tired of you and your nonsense. So
Yeah. I mean,
very.
he literally said that America is basically washing their hands of this.
Mhm.
And
He did
he's the American ambassador or liaison, whatever he is. I forgot his title.
something.
But yeah, he's something. So I wouldn't be surprised if now that America is just kind of we're done with y'all
Mhm.
for him to kind of back into the shadows and go away.
Mm, I can
But
see
I
that.
think they already established him as enough as a solid character that
Yeah.
if he came back, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, maybe he'll continue his efforts to get Nick to be a double agent, if you will.
Or
And
maybe you're going to be right and he's going to defect because we all know that
or
that's what
he's
you're
gonna
rooting for.
defect. Good. No, it's not that I'm rooting for it. It's just it would make sense, like in order to appeal to Serena more so, and not be an unmarried pregnant woman, is if she were to be with someone who's of Gilead. And
Yeah.
Mark just seems so desperate to keep her in his clutches, if you will. Not like in a creepy sense, but just like to
It's in a creepy
be
sense.
around. Yeah, okay, it's in a creepy sense. You see what I'm saying? I don't know. I hope not, but we're
The things
almost
men will do to smash. I mean,
oh, Jesus. Don't get me started. So we're almost halfway through the season. Next week will be episode 5. Looking forward to that. And that pretty much wraps up today's pod. So, Amber, thank you again for joining me. And thank you to those who have watched this live stream. Thank you to Christian, aka McDorks, who was in the chat for a little bit. Appreciate you being here. And to anyone else who will come upon this podcast in the replay, appreciate you stopping by. Consider subscribing to the Watchers in the Basement as we are on the road to 200 subscribers. And also don't forget to like this video. It helps out with our algorithm. That way more people can check us out. And we also want to tell y'all that Amber here has her own YouTube channel, which is known as OllivAmber's Wands, a study of wand lore in the wizarding world. And Amber, you actually have some really exciting news that deals with wands, and it starts tomorrow. Tell us about that real quick.
Tomorrow is the start of Wandtober. It is an entire month-long event completely centered around wands. And we have, I believe it's closer to 30 plus wand makers from all over the world.
Wow.
Yeah. They are very amazingly talented people because the stuff that they create, it's more than just a stick. It is art. They spend hours intricately designing, carving, whittling, amazing stuff. And we have again like 30 plus wand makers from all over the world. So we're gonna have scheduled events. It's called Master Wand Makers. They are on Instagram and on the Master Wand Makers website. You can also access through my Instagram and my my Instagram. I'll be making posts and everything about it. But I am kicking off Wandtober because mostly on the weekends, but days throughout October, we are going to be having interviews, cosplay competitions, art competitions, and I am doing specifically 2 events where I am kicking off the event by doing a history of wands tomorrow at 1:00 in what time zone am I in? California.
California. Pacific time.
Thanks. Hey, I'm from Arizona. We don't have time zones.
Yeah, that's true. That's forgivable.
So Pacific time. So 1:00 Pacific time tomorrow, October 1st, 2022. I'm going to be leading a history of wands, and we are going to be talking about the cultural, historic significance of wands throughout the entire world. It is very fun. A lot of research and time went into this. I'm very excited for my presentation. And later on in the month, I'm going to be doing a DIY of how to make a wand with a chopstick or a little dowel and
How
hot
cool.
glue. Yes,
Very fun. I'm looking
it's very
forward
fun.
to that. Looking forward to that. So all of Amber's links will be in the description box down below to follow her YouTube as well as her Instagram. And you can check her out about Wantober that begins tomorrow, October 1st, 2022.
Mhm.
So also you can follow the Watchers in the Basement on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Search at Watchers Basement. You can also help spread the word about us on that same or those same social media platforms, but use hashtag Watchers Basement. Send us articles, send us memes, send us things
Yeah.
that you want us to watch and review. We'll be sure to put that on the list. And if you're into House of the Dragon, the guys and I are doing reviews on every episode every Monday after the premiere on Sundays. So be sure to join us Mondays for House of the Dragons and join Amber and I again every Friday for the Handmaid's Tale review.
Yes.
Lastly, we are also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, thanks to anchor.fm. Give us a 5-star rating if you enjoy our podcast. It really helps us out. And that wraps up, finally, today's episode. Once again, Amber, thank you so much for joining me. I cannot wait to watch the new episode next week and to come back here and discuss it with you.
I thank you again for the honor and congrats again for Watchers in the Basement for the 100th episode.
Yay!
And I hope we reach 200 soon. I hope. And I guess have a great day and buy her fucking hand.
Buy her fucking hand. See y'all.